From the moment he was born, Tyrion was a problem. He's a dwarf, a physical deviation in a world where strength and height equal power. In the context of Westeros, where wars are won by armies and swords, Tyrion shouldn't exist. His father, Tyrion Lannister, one of the most powerful men in the realm, sees him as a stain on the Lannister name.
You who killed your mother to come into the world.
Spiteful little creature. You are not mine.
His sister Cersei calls him a monster.
You ripped my mother open on your way out of her and she bled to death.
Most people in his position would break. They'd become bitter. They'd internalize the hatred and turn it outward. But Tyrion does something different. He accepts it. This is where his philosophy begins. In Season 1, he meets Jon Snow, another outsider. Jon is brooding over being a bastard. Tyrion's advice to him is the foundation of everything he believes.
Never forget what you are. The rest of the world will not. Wear it like armor, and it can never be used to hurt you.
This is radical acceptance. In psychological terms, Tyrion is practicing externalization. He knows that if he tries to hide his dwarfism or his reputation, his enemies will use it as a weapon. But if he claims it first, if he calls himself the imp, the weapon loses its edge. Tyrion teaches us that your identity isn't defined by how the world sees you, but by how much of that vision you allow to penetrate your skin. He doesn't seek to change the world's prejudice. He seeks to make himself immune to it. He accepts it the way a sailor accepts the ocean, not because he loves the waves, but because denying them won't change anything. The ocean is what it is, so he learns to sail. If identity is his shield, knowledge is his sword. Tyrion is a pragmatist. He understands that in a world full of enemies, hatred, and betrayal, the person with the most information wins. He couldn't win through strength, fine, so he fights and wins through reading and understanding, psychology, history, politics, the motivations of men. Throughout the series, we see him reading. He's gathering knowledge because knowledge is his only weapon.
Why'd you read so much?
Well, my brother has his sword, and I have my mind. And a mind needs books like a sword needs a whetstone. That's why I read so much Jon Snow.
We see this whetstone philosophy strike again and again throughout the series. It's in the way he outmaneuvers the court's greatest spies by feeding 3 different lies to Varys, Littlefinger, and Pycelle, using information as a trap to identify a traitor. It's in the Battle of the Blackwater, where he ignores traditional naval tactics and instead turns to his knowledge of alchemical wildfire, transforming a desperate defense into a literal wall of fire that breaks Stannis Baratheon's fleet. Even in the Eyrie, when he is physically helpless, he uses his understanding of human greed to turn the mercenary Bronn into his personal champion, or the psychological warfare of managing Daenerys Targaryen's volatile ambition.
You once told me you knew what your father was. Did you know his plans for King's Landing when the Lannister armies were at his gates?
Cersei's followers will abandon her if they know the war is lost. Give them that chance.
Tyrion proves that every problem is just a puzzle waiting for the right piece of knowledge. He doesn't just know things for the sake of trivia. He knows things so that when the world tries to crush him, he's already moved the pieces to crush them back. But every story has a breaking point. Tyrion is put on trial for a crime he didn't commit. Even his own sister believes he killed Joffrey when he had nothing to do with it. Although a deal is briefly proposed for Tyrion to join the Night's Watch in exchange for a confession, Tyrion defies his father and demands a trial by combat. When his champion, Oberyn Martell, is defeated, Tyrion is sentenced to death. However, on the eve of his execution, Jaime and Varys break him out of the dungeons. Before escaping the city, he discovers Shae, the woman he loved, and the one he believed loved him, lying in his father's bed, leading to a final, violent confrontation that alters the course of his life forever. And in that moment, everything Tyrion believed about understanding people, about reading the game, about being clever enough to survive, it all shatters. He killed his father. He killed Shay. And in doing so, he killed the part of himself that believed strategy and cleverness could protect you from heartbreak. In the aftermath, drunk and broken, Tyrion becomes darker. He starts questioning whether all his intelligence, all his strategy, all his wit, none of it matters if the system itself is rotten. If the person holding the power is fundamentally broken, if you can play the game perfectly and still lose everything. For the first time, Tyrion questions whether the game itself is worth playing. And what pulls him out of this darkness? What saves his philosophy from becoming pure cynicism? Its belief in something bigger than himself. He meets Daenerys Targaryen, a woman with the power to remake the world. And suddenly, Tyrion's mind is sharp again. Not because he's playing a game, but because he believes in something. Not just survival, not just winning, but meaning. In the final seasons, Tyrion's philosophy evolves once again. He stops being the clever player. He becomes something rarer, a man trying to minimize suffering and serve a greater good. When the White Walkers threaten everyone, he negotiates with Cersei, because saving the realm matters more than defeating her. When Daenerys Targaryen burns King's Landing, he's devastated, not because his strategy failed, because thousands of innocent people died. Tyrion's final act is his most philosophical. He proposes Bran the Broken as king, arguing that there is nothing more powerful than a good story. He sees in Bran a leader who has moved beyond personal desire and survival, becoming a living library of human history. For Tyrion, Bran represents the ultimate triumph of the mind over the sword. This is the final evolution of his philosophy. So what does Tyrion Lannister teach us? He teaches us that your weaknesses are not your enemies. They're information. They tell you what you need to develop. He teaches us that understanding the system is more powerful than brute force. He teaches us that morality is less important than effectiveness, but effectiveness is worthless without conscience. He teaches us that trust is a liability. And finally, he teaches us that cleverness without purpose is just games. But cleverness in service of something bigger, that's wisdom. You'll never be able to explain why people listen to you when you embody these principles. You'll just notice it happening. People will sense something different. Not ambition, not desperation, but clarity, purpose, a kind of calm that comes from accepting reality and working within it, not against it. That's the art of thinking like Tyrion Lannister.